Alrighty, so to get the reference images for this tutorial, you can go ahead and find those in the resources section of my Discord server. And with that sorted, let's get into the modeling process. So, speaking of the references, let's go ahead and load those in once they've downloaded them. And so we'll just bring in the front-facing one. Just reset the rotation, rotate it 90 on the x-axis. And I'm just going to move it back by 7 units. That's completely arbitrary. We'll mess around with the scaling of the model later on. So the depth, we want it to sit behind our mesh, and the side, we only want it to be viewed from the front. So it's got like back face culling, effectively. Just change your your pivot point to the 3D cursor. We'll just duplicate this. Just hit this 2 so we're not modifying both of these images at once. And we'll get the side reference image, and we'll just do that again, duplicate it, bring in the back reference image, and then we'll select the first plane that we imported and duplicate it, rotate it around the x-axis. And for this one we want to be viewed on the back, and then we'll just load in our top-down view. So I've decided to give you all of the references as individual planes as opposed to the 4 on one plane, as you don't need to go ahead and do any alignment of anything. It's all lined up for you, so you can just get straight into the modeling process. So on that note, let's bring in a cube, tap into edit mode, and let's just delete all the vertices. If you hold down Control and click, what we'll do is we'll put in a vertice. So just make sure you're in vertex select mode here. And you'll see a vertice that's popped up. And I'm just going to change my transform point back to the bounding box. And we can just go ahead and align that on this point here. And we can extrude this back here. So what I'm looking to do at the moment is I'm trying to align everything along this curve at the moment, right? So that's what I'm going for. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut down the amount of manual work that we need to do. So if we just select this edge that we've made and subdivide it, and we'll do it 5 times. What we can do is we can change the smoothness factor here. Just bring it up until it roughly matches the shape that we're going for. So it's not completely perfect, but it's done most of the heavy lifting for us. And we can just go ahead and adjust some of these vertices in here. The only problem with this is if we look top down, it's not aligned properly. So if we just select the first and last one, set the origin point to the selection, and then our pivot point to the 3D cursor, and scale 0 to the x-axis, we can just straighten that back out. Next thing we want to do is we'll just bring in a circle, and actually I want to just reset my 3D cursor. Then I'll bring the circle in. We just want to change the amount of vertices to be 24. We don't need 32. Just rotate that, on the Y 90 degrees. And we want to align the outer part of this circle with this edge along here. So we'll just bring this down. And so you can see this lines up nicely on the right over here, but it's missing sort of on the left. So if we just select this topmost vertice, just go cursor to selected, and just using L to select the circle, we can just scale in until it lines up on the left-hand side there. And now you see it lines up pretty nicely on the right and pretty nicely on the left as well. So it's nice and even. And we can just go ahead and delete the vertices we don't need. Now, this is going to be in the center. So we just need to bring this along just until the top vertex aligns with the topmost edge on the reference. And then what we can do is we can just go ahead and line up these vertices. Just want to make sure that's at the front. Yep. Line up these vertices along this edge. Try to have it as close to the reference as possible. If it's not, don't worry about it. You'll notice mine's a little bit janky as well. But just try to get it to align as best as possible. Looks fine at the back. And just to fix up some of the wonkiness of it, we'll just select it and we will space and relax. And now it's just nice and cleaned up from hand placing those vertices. Cool. So let's extrude this out. We'll just bring it out along the Y. And I'm sort of just getting the Z axes here to line up with this edge along here. And you'll see why in a second, because we'll change our snapping to active and vertex. And we'll just snap this, the vertice at the back here. Fill in that face, I'll add that edge. And then we'll just bring this up. Just to be around there. So it's a bit hard to see here, but what's happening in this shape is this edge comes down, and we've sort of got like a bevel at the back there. I don't want to model the bevel in yet, so I just want to block out the shape roughly, and then we can add the bevel in later once we've got more topology. Otherwise it's just a bit more of a nightmare to deal with all at the same time. So we'll just have that around roughly the middle of where this bevel is, so that's good enough for me. And then we'll just bring this down to match up with this edge here as well. Bring that down, and then I'll just go ahead, space, and relax those. And we'll do the same for here. We need a little bit more topology at the top just to make this line up a bit nicer. Space that out, relax that. Cool, alright. So, we've got a... not yet, sorry. We'll just bring these out. Forget that we're working in 3D and not 2D. Just align those. Space, relax. Yeah, we'll do the relax and then just clean up the position just a little bit. That'll be fine. We'll add in more topology later. Alright, cool. So now we've got like a rough outline of the back part of the helmet here. So something that I want to make easier to follow along with this time is getting the curvature of the helmet more consistent when following along with this tutorial. So the only real point of reference we have for the curvature of this helmet, right, is just this outer edge here. Right, this is the main part that gives us an indication of what the shape, what the curvature of the helmet shape is. You could say that between, you know, a vertice here and a vertice here, you know, you've got this curvature. But there's nothing that tells us, you know, where these vertices need to be placed. Yeah, maybe you could use, you know, the bit of paint there and maybe the dent there and maybe the dent there. But it's not really a concrete reference and you're going to be guessing at everything pretty much. So, using the reference that we do have, I'm just going to select these middle two vertices here, roughly in the middle. And we're going to fill in the face. And then we're going to subdivide this thing. And so we'll subdivide it, let's do 3 times. And then, this is already pretty close, but we'll just adjust the smoothness of the subdivision here just to try to match the part of the reference that we can for the curvature of the helmet. Right, so now we've got something like this. So we could, you know, go ahead and do the same thing, select this, select that, subdivide, but that's going to be rather tedious, and then even yet, that means we've got more edges that we need to try to get aligned perfectly, and it leaves more room for error for, you know, you following along and getting a different result to what I'm getting. And I've just noticed here that these are just a little bit pushed down. So what we can do instead is we can use the grid fill function. But it's not going to work at the moment because we don't have an even amount of vertices here. So I'll just show you. So we've got some nice edge flow there, here, and through here. But then you'll notice we've got a mismatch. That should have gone over there. There. So we're trying to connect these 2 vertices to these 5 vertices here, which isn't going to work unless we just start making some really horrific triangles and destroy our topology. It's not what we want. So what we can do, since we're trying to connect these 2 to these 5, is we can just select between points, subdivide this section. We'll just turn the smoothness back to 0 as well, and space and relax this. And now, to just draw it out again, you can see we've got the same edge flow here, so that's all nice. And then we've got 5 points that connect to another 5 points, and you can see just from the drawing we've got nice quad topology at the back here. So what we can do is if we just go and select the outer extremities of all this, we can use the grid fill, and this will actually get all the curvature in for us, which is going to save us a lot of time and keep results more consistent. So I'm pretty sure span of 6 and an offset of 3. No, that's horrific. It's somewhere in here. It might just take a little bit. Was it the other way around? 3 and 6. Nope. I'm not sure if this is going to be consistent. There we go. 4 and 5. There we go. Might be different on your end. I've got no idea how the grid fill works sometimes. It like a lot of things in Blender, seems temperamental. But as you can see, that's nicely given us the curvature of the helmet without us having to do it manually, just based on these points that we placed in. So very handy. So we want to go ahead and do the same thing for the front part of the helmet. So let's just go ahead and, just to make things easier to see, I'm just going to go ahead and hide those faces just so we're focusing on what we're working with. And let's just control click randomly anywhere, just bring in a vert. And we'll enable mirroring and clipping. The clipping is going to be important. And then just wherever this vert is, we're just going to drag it and snap it to the middle, and it will only stop at the middle because of the clipping. And we're just going to align it at the front of the brow here. So we've got that. And we'll just extrude this back. And it's going to be a bit hard to guess at the moment. So we'll just put this vertex in the middle of this bevel here, right? And just untick clipping for a second so we can move that away from the middle, and then just re-enable it afterwards. And so we can just line that up on that side as well. And extrude this down just there. And just bring it out on the side here as well. Cool. So all we're going to be doing is we're pretty much just going to be modeling the outline of the frame here, very basically. So that's what we're going for there. And we'll just drag that down to match. Just getting nice curvature to match up on the frame here. And don't worry too much about this, because this is going to, we're going to bevel this later on to get that nice rounded part at the front. So we can just leave that as a singular vert for the time being. You'll notice we do that a lot throughout this. We just want to keep the topology simple, and then we can iterate on everything later on. And we'll just start to align this to the outside here as well. And we'll just do another one. Space and relax those out. And we can just move these back arbitrarily. And so what we're going to do here is, now that we've got better reference with edges pointing, grabbed the wrong thing, pointing this way and up, so we can sort of get a center point of where the vertice to create this bevel should lie. So we're just going to grab this and just about there. So the reason I've placed it here is you'll notice this edge continues up into this point and aligns with the edge of the reference, and this edge also aligns with the top of this reference here. And just to show you why this is important, because if I bevel this and add some more topology to it, you'll notice that with that positioning, once we do get around to beveling it, it nicely fits the profile of that bevel on the helmet there. So we'll just leave that there for the time being. And this is a pretty wonky edge, so we can just go into Loop Tools and use the G-Stretch feature. And I'm just going to change it to be just spread, as opposed to spread evenly. And because this continues down, we can roughly estimate that that should merge to that vertex there. And we can probably just space that out a bit. Cool, alright, and while we're at it, let's go ahead and we can fill in a triangle there. Just start to bring that up a bit. Cool, alright, so we're starting to build the foundations of the helmet here. And while we're at it, let's extrude this point into the middle. And then using the side view, we'll just drag this up so that we start to approximate the curvature here. And this one, we're not going to have an exact reference to work from. Sorry, explain that, but we don't have an exact reference of what the curvature looks like here. We have a bit of an offset between where this vertex exists, though, and where this curve is here. So we'll just try to keep these two lines parallel to one another. That's sort of going to be the reference here. So I'm going to adjust the position of this vertex, or better yet, sorry, I'll dissolve that vertex and we'll subdivide this again, and we'll do it twice, and we'll use the smoothness, and we'll try to keep this edge parallel to the one above it, so a value of 1 seems to be pretty alright, and that doesn't really adjust too much outwards. So what we want to do is figure out what vertex is this going to connect to. And frankly, I don't think we have enough topology at the front here at the moment, because you're going to need these two to connect, and then we're going to need 2 more vertices at the front. So we've already got 1 there. So let's just add in a vertex there. And then just between these points, let's just space and relax that. Oh, actually, no, sorry, we don't want to relax that first one, we can just relax that. So now we have points between there, and that will influence how these are going to connect here. Cool. Alright, so this one, once again, we're not going to have an exact reference, so we'll F to fill that in. And we'll subdivide, and we'll do it 3 times, because we did 3 times for the vertex, or sorry, the edge that we have hidden back here. And maybe not a value of 1, but we just want to try to keep some nice curvature at the back. So I'm just going to adjust it. I think that looks alright. I'm just eyeballing this as well, so feel free to do the same. I don't have an exact science for this, but I think that looks pretty nice. Like, I feel like that curve there looks pretty even. So we can just go ahead and unhide the rest of the mesh here, just so we can see what we're working with. And so if we try to do a grid fill here at the moment, it's not actually going to work because of our mirror modifier. So we'll just very quickly tab out of edit mode, and we'll apply our mirror. And just with that selected, we can go ahead and do a grid fill. And you'll notice without having to do any tweaking there, that works out really quite nice. The only problem is it doesn't quite match the curvature to the silhouette that we have. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut the mesh in half again. Should probably do it by verts instead. Oops. Sure, I can select all those, and then the vertices, no faces. Okay, I don't know what's going on. We might have doubles. No, okay, I don't know what's going on. Just, yeah, hopefully let you have less troubles than me, but yeah, just delete half of the mesh there. And then we'll bring our mirror modifier back in, make sure to enable clipping. And I've just noticed the shading looks a little bit weird on the front part here. So just enable the face orientation. Yeah, so we can see that these normals are facing the wrong way. So we can just go ahead and select everything and recalculate these normals. There we go. And so what we're going to do for the front, I'm just going to select these 2 edges here. Just going to press O to enable proportional editing. I'm going to use the normal orientation of these edges. And I'm just going to pull these out on the front just to match up that curvature. So I might go there, and then I'll just select this one. Adjust it a bit more. And yeah, look, we'll probably add more topology in afterwards. So I think for the time being, that's going to be fine. And I'm going to relax everything but that bottom row there, just to make the curvature a bit nicer. Cool. So I've almost got. I dare say this is the hardest part because we want to make sure we get this profile right. Most of the rest of the helmet design is all just very much flat angles. It's not so rounded and curved, and there's better reference points for everything. So this is objectively the hardest part of what we're doing. So let's just fill in a face or an edge there. Subdivide it. We can leave the smoothness on, but we're probably not going to want that high of a factor because you can sort of see that's sort of protruding out a bit more than you'd want. So I'm going to bring this back in. This part needs to be pretty flat. Maybe just a little bit. Let's just see how that looks. If this isn't fine, we can pretty easily adjust it because it's just a matter of grabbing this edge. I'll just turn proportional editing off so it doesn't cause any problems. Might actually flatten that out a bit more. I think that works better. Cool. So yeah, look, we've had to eyeball a few sections here, but in the grand scheme of it, most of this should be very easy to replicate. Cool. So what have we got going on here? We've got 2 here trying to connect to 3, so we're going to need more topology running through the back here, which isn't bad because we definitely didn't have a lot along the back here to start with. So let's just go ahead and select all these, and we can just space that out. Relax it too. So cool. Now we know that these are all going to connect, and at the bottom here we've got 4 vertices trying to connect to 3, so we just need an extra vertice at the top here. We'll just space those out. And now if we go ahead and select all of these and do a grid fill, we'll get a span of 5, I believe. Oops, that broke it. There we go. Span of 4, offset of 2. And you'll notice that's pretty well solved all of the curvature for us. There's probably only one really glaring area, and that's just this edge down here. It looks a bit sharp. Even if we apply like smooth shading, it looks okay, but it's probably still just a little bit sharp. So what I'm going to do is just select these and just relax, just to smooth it out a bit. And you'll also notice we've sort of got a lot of bunching at the back here. So what we can do is just go through and select all of these edges. And we can just space and relax all that. And now we've just got some better distribution for everything. Cool, so now we've got the basis of the curvature sorted out. So as I said, that's probably the hardest part of everything we're doing because the faceplate here is all just very much straight angles. But trying to get this part down pat is what took me the longest personally. But hopefully using the grid fill methods and just doing the outlines of where we have the best reference points, hopefully you've been able to create this part, and now the rest of it should all be very nice and easy to follow along with.